but it's different from an entity that would dispossess a person. And like I said, not everything worshipped as a god is truly a god. Sometimes there are beings that sort of play this game with humanity that they'll announce themselves to be a god. And they do. Part of some religions is to be dispossessed. Now, a good example of that would be Voodoo, where the Orishas ride the celebrants in a particular rite. My impression of those beings is that they are powerful ancestral spirits, but they are not what my understanding of a god or goddess necessarily would be. So there's, I know that might irritate some of my Voodoo friends, but it's not to say they aren't powerful. It's just to say there's a distinctive difference that you learn when you exist beyond this physical realm. You learn the fundamental natures of many different types of beings. And the gods have a very distinctive nature that when you experience that, you know it.
Okay, Don,
Yes.
Don Henrie. Last time we talked about the angelic thing, and we talked about the humanist view and the spiritual view as well too. When someone says, God, that sort of thing, and maybe a human being can say, okay, I am God, and that sort of. How does that? What do you think on that? Your 2 cents on that? When someone says, okay, someone's godlike, or have a
Well, my answer would be that that person would be partly right. Partly it's the obvious part that we could see because we are all a manifestation, I guess you say, of the stars, the universe. So we're all a part of God, I guess, if you want to use that. But God, I use the word God, but the funny thing is God is not necessarily the correct or most respectful way of actually describing it. No human words can actually describe its majesty, I guess you'd say, when it comes to that sense. Yeah.
Exactly. When a person believes in one God, which of course a lot of my friends do. Most people have a Catholic belief or a Christian belief and that sort of thing, and stuff like that. I believe in just that one God and everything else and stuff like that. And when most people say, okay, well, I'm a God. Yeah, and when some people go, well, no, I'm a God, but some people only believe in that one God and everything else. So, Bon, really quick, when someone believes in just that one God, what do you think to yourself if there's only one God in the universe?
Well, I think they're wrong for the most part because they're confusing something that isn't God with God. And by that I mean that, as a pantheist or as someone who is a priest who connects into the divine energy, they're not wrong. All are one, right? That's the whole point of pantheism, is to say that all are one. But what they're sometimes confusing for God, for example, a person who declares themselves God, they're probably worshiping their own ego, their own false ego, which by its nature I would say you're wrong. You're not God in that sense. You have the divine energy flowing through you or you wouldn't be here. But if you're going to worship your ego and proclaim yourself to be a God, you're fooling yourself, and probably not very many other people. In terms of what the Judeo-Christian idea of God is, if you notice when they talk about God, you have to study, of course, Kabbalah to understand some of this, but they're talking about omnipotent, all-powerful, omniscient, all-knowing, and omnipresent, all, existing everywhere. You're talking about something that by its nature cannot be defined, because at the moment you start to try to define it, you're limiting it. And how do you define that which is limitless? Once you start saying what it is, you're implying what it is not. So anytime you start to cultivate a definition of God, you're by necessity creating a God form or a sub-God of that universal principle. And so and that's what the sort of the delusion, I hate to say it, of the Judeo-Christian tradition is, and the Islamic tradition, is that they're taking something that's less than really what God is and proclaiming that to the exclusion of something else, which is not necessarily the case.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Don, Henrie, what is your 2 cents on what you just said? What is your 2 cents on that?
Basically, it's kind of a touchy subject because the thing is that God and religion and such things, I guess you say there's just so many facets. I keep alluding back to facets because when you ask one question that could be, what is my view, I guess you'd say, when it comes to what you just mentioned, God, it just sets my mind to stirring. Bon, will you please continue for a moment?
Sure. A popular thing you hear from people is God is love. And that is a profoundly true statement, but they don't understand what it really means. Because love, in the sense of divine love, is not human love. Divine love is free to all, and it exists everywhere, but it is not what a human being typically thinks of in terms of what they view as love. What they, a human viewpoint of love is a thin slice of that, and a lot of times it's tied up into need and other things which are, not very different from divine love. But when you say, okay, God is love versus God is not this, and see, so what happens is, even though you call it monotheism, most of these are not true monotheists, not truly monotheistic, because they create a duality. So they say, here's God, which is everything we can think of that's good and nice that we like, and here's Shaitan on the other side, which is the antithesis of everything. So he's a God in their religion of everything but name. They won't call him that, but what they've created is a dualistic system, similar to Zoroastrianism, where essentially there are two God systems. Or if you believe in the Trinity, which is kind of an interesting concept, that, of course, is a derivation of pantheism. The original Greek theologian who came up with that was very familiar with pantheist tradition in the Greek world. But now you're saying, okay, we recognize the threefold nature of God, and then you add on to that Satan, because we have to differentiate. And so I'm not sure that any of them are really truly monotheistic, and I don't know how useful it is. It's useful to you if you're graduated beyond and you're connecting into the divine, and you realize the connection with everything. But those kind of people aren't running around defaming other people's gods, because you would recognize it in others, in other systems. Mm-hmm. So that's my problem with that a little bit, is that they're taking a very specific thing that is not a full representation or a full understanding of what the divine is, which is incomprehensible, really, to a human being, to a human mind.
Hey, Scott.
Yes?
Let's move to something like Jesus. Jeebus. Baby Jeebus.
Okay, well, you want the inside skinny on Jesus. Jesus was a very enlightened man.
Mm-hmm. He was just excellent. He was excellent.
He was trying to, in his way, according to my conversation with him, free man from dogma by teaching him how to be spiritual. And then they basically took his beautiful philosophy and
built a religion around
dogma. Yeah, exactly. Which he's not happy about, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. He's definitely not happy about that.